Hey everyone, welcome back to Ask Literature, your go-to channel for diving deep into the world of English literature and literary theories. Today we're tackling a fascinating and often overlooked perspective in literary analysis, biography literary territory. This approach invites us to explore the life of an author as a key to understanding their work, allowing us to connect their personal experiences, background, and psychology to the text itself. Let's jump in and unpack how biography theory works, why it matters, and how it shapes our interpretation of literature. So let's start by breaking down what biography theory actually is. At its core, this theory argues that the life of the author should play a significant role in how we interpret a text. When we read a novel, a poem, or any form of writing, we're not just engaging with the words on the page, we're also engaging with the mind behind them. In this sense, biography theory suggests that an author's experiences, beliefs, and even personal struggles can offer key insights into the meaning of their work. For example, think of Charles Dickens. When you read Oliver Twist, it's almost impossible to ignore Dickens' own difficult childhood, his exposure to poverty, and his critique of the social systems of the time. Biography theory would encourage us to look at how Dickens' life experiences are reflected in his writing and in turn how these experiences help deepen our understanding of his work. However, biography theory isn't about reducing a work of art to mere autobiography. The goal is not to say this is what happened in the author's life and therefore this is what their work means. Instead, it's about finding threads, sometimes subtle, sometimes overt, that connect the author's personal world to their fictional or poetic one. It allows us to see literature as a reflection of the human experience, often filtered through the unique lens of the author's life. Take a writer like Sylvia Plath. Her poetry, especially in works like Ariel, becomes almost inseparable from her personal experiences, particularly her mental health struggles and the challenges she faced as a woman in the 20th century. Biography theory would guide us to not only read Plath's words, but also to consider her life, her emotional state, and the social pressures she faced as essential factors in interpreting her work. But here's the question: how do we balance this personal lens with the idea that literature can stand on its own, separate from the author's biography? Some critics argue that focusing too much on an author's life risks limiting the interpretation of the text. After all, literature can often transcend the author's intentions or personal experiences. That's where the challenge lies in biography theory, striking the balance between using the author's life as a key, without letting it be the only key to understanding the text. One of the earliest proponents of biography theory was Samuel Johnson, an 18th century literary critic and essayist. Johnson believed that to fully understand a work, we must know the author's life values and worldview. In his Lives of the Poets, Johnson linked biographical details of poets like Milton and Pope to their works, arguing that a writer's life shaped their creative output. This was a crucial development in the history of literary criticism because it laid the foundation for what would later become a more formalized biographical approach. On the other hand, some schools of thought pushed back against biography theory, particularly during the 20th century. The rise of new criticism emphasized that the text should be analyzed on its own, without recourse to outside information like the author's life. According to this school, a work of literature should be treated as an independent object, with its meaning derived solely from the words on the page, not from the author's biography. So biography theory found itself in tension with these other critical approaches, but it never really went away. In fact, the relevance of biography theory has evolved, especially with the advent of psychoanalytic criticism. Figures like Sigmund Freud and Jacques Lacan introduced ideas that suggested an author's unconscious mind shaped by personal experiences, desires, and traumas could manifest itself in their writing, sometimes in ways the author might not even be aware of. For instance, in the case of a writer like Franz Kafka, whose works often feature themes of alienation, anxiety, and existential dread. Biography theory could combine with psychoanalysis to examine how Kafka's personal relationships and fears influence the surreal and oppressive atmospheres of his stories. Another angle where biography theory proves crucial is in understanding marginalized voices. When we look at writers from underrepresented or oppressed groups, their life experiences often give a deeper context to their works. Consider authors like Maya Angelou or James Baldwin, whose writings reflect the struggles of racial inequality and personal identity. Biography theory allows us to engage with these works not just as literary art, but as powerful expressions of lived experience. At the same time, modern authors sometimes push back against biography theory by playing with their own biographies, making it difficult to separate fact from fiction. Authors like Jorge Luis Borges and Salman Rushdie often blur the line between reality and imagination, forcing readers to question how much of their work is truly autobiographical. This raises interesting questions about the limits of biography theory. How much can we trust the author's life as a stable interpretive tool? So why does all of this matter? Well, biography theory offers you you as a more personal human approach to literature. It reminds us that authors are not just disembodied voices on a page, they are people with real lives, emotions, and experiences that can illuminate their work. When used carefully, biography theory allows us to create a richer, more layered interpretation of literature. It helps us make connections between the world of the text and the world of the author, making literature feel more immediate, more real, and often more meaningful. And with that, we wrap up today's deep dive into biography literary theory. It's a powerful way to understand literature, offering a window into the minds and lives of the authors we study. If you enjoyed this discussion and want more content on literary theories or specific authors, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new video from Ask Literature. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep exploring the depths of literature. See you next time.